Hello all, welcome back to our monthly webinar series. This is your host, moderator, Srikant Ramabhadran. We will be welcoming this hour and I'll hand over approximately after a minute to Stephen Simpson, who will be talking about growing deposits. We are glad to have Stephen here with us to share his experience and knowledge during this webinar. Stephen Simpson of the FinTech Data Science and Consulting will discuss ways the credit union can put member data to work to boost deposits and cover other business growth opportunities. Attendees will explore how to use analytics to segment member data and 3 tangible actions for an immediate impact. And here is the agenda. As you see, I'm doing the welcome note. I'll be soon ending, and then I'll also talk about a biography here. Stephen has held C-level positions at Bank of America, Simpson of Management Consulting, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, the Independent Bankers Bank, and other bank and credit unions. Stephen has vast industry experience and an unrivaled understanding of the software and analytics used by financial institutions around the globe. He has authored several products used by consulting firms and leading software providers. He has led numerous mergers and acquisitions, converted over 55 core banking systems, and guided a startup specializing in internet banking to the NASDAQ IPO. So, before I turn over, I would like to also talk about our portal, culytics.com. This site, as you see, covers, kind of helps to the public and private community, a place for credit union employees to collaborate and share ideas or best practice on data analytics. Here is how it looks like if you're not seen this before. And this particular site membership is open for all. In addition, if you're not already a member, to join our LinkedIn group. It's called Credit Union Data Analytics Group. Finally, I will try to mute your phones, or I'm going to ask you also to place your thing on a mute, and so that I can hand over the presentation rights to Stephen Simpson. The last point before I do that, there will be a Q&A after about 40 minutes into the presentation. And the recording of the webinar and the PowerPoint will be available on Culytics after the webinar.
I pretty recently tried to get through it.
Okay. Stephen, you're there. I'm going to give over the presentation rights to you.
Okay, I am here.
All right.
Oh, that's Maca.
If you could check your connection, if you're somewhat transmitting and having a chat, if you could mute your line, that would be great.
Yeah.
We'll get started. I appreciate the opportunity to present these discussion topics with you today. 3 ways to capture and keep deposits using advanced analytics. So I wanted to start off, I don't know if you attended the recent Microsoft Analytics seminar in Redmond, Washington, or if you're at NACU. Make sure you're not able to see, you're not able to do the broadcasting, are you, and click mute on their line? By chance? Okay, so from the CUSO and the Microsoft Credit Union Analytics Conference, we discussed that to get started in advanced analytics, a lot of people think that it is a long journey, but a lot of people think you have to do a lot of prep work to get ready. When in reality, I suggest you simply start simple, you have a goal in mind, and you, yes, sir?
Just pause for a second. Let me mute everybody else so that, and then I will unmute your line.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll start it. And then on the top? Yeah, here. Yeah.
Perfect. We are good to go. Thank you.
You bet. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks.
That is much better. Thank you very much, Sri. So the point is in advanced analytics, or when you're looking to empower the lines of business to take specific action, it's simply just to start. The First Tech CEO spoke at the Redmond, Washington, Microsoft CEO Analytics
Hi,
conference.
Stephen. One more.
And
quick interrupt, Stephen. Are you sharing your screen?
Yes.
Let me see.
I had in the beginning, let's see, did it go off share?
Yeah, now we are.
Okay,
Thanks a lot.
Okay, excellent. Hey, I'm glad you asked when you did. Okay, so the First Tech CEO spoke in a CEO conference, CEO panel there in Redmond, Washington, and it was great to hear him say that, you know, as a CEO, of course, and especially of First Tech, he's very smart, very intuitively knowledgeable about the credit union and the market. But I think the people at First Tech will tell you that he spoke for a moment that his biggest recommendation to the 300 credit unions in the room was just to start, because the questions that you have today keeping you up at night are probably not even the right questions. A year from now, those questions will have been answered. You'll have had dozens of others, because getting, of course, one answer just leads to more questions. And he spoke for a moment on the fact that he's been amazed at how many times his intuition has been corrected or improved through their analytical results. So we'll talk to you a little bit about that today. But again, the message is just to start. Every line of business, whether it's growing credit cards, increasing mortgages, getting more indirect car loans, or growing deposits maybe by 5%, whatever your goal is, each of those goals for each line of business can be broken down into that specific strategic initiative. And then from analytics, what we're going to talk about today is how to provide them information that's actionable to empower the frontline staffs so that they can just get started. There's a tremendous amount of opportunities within credit union data. We'll talk about several of those today, but we're talking specifically today about ways to capture and keep deposits. One of the recurring themes you're going to hear from me is that the challenge is an extreme minority of our members produce an extreme majority of our member contribution, our debit card transactions, our non-interest income. And so how to isolate those people and see what they have and how they use our products and services so that we can improve the member journey for others and recognize them at the 2 weeks or 2 month point in time so that we can improve member service and really drive them towards success in the use of our products and services. When I say segmentation is everything, I say it a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but mathematically, segmentation is actually much more than 100%. We've all seen the statistics of the 80-20 rule, right? Well, in credit unions, it's actually much more than 80-20. In fact, when we're talking member contribution, the member contribution, again, is that extreme minority producing an extreme majority. So just to delve for 30 seconds into that segmentation of member contribution, it's a key segment filter that I'll come back to throughout this presentation. But a lot of credit unions don't have member contribution calculations. If you did, or if we worked together to create one on whatever product you're using or just on SQL alone, what we would find normally surprises most credit unions. It is often 1 to 3 or maybe 5% that produce 120 to 220% of your gross risk-weighted, capital-costed member contribution. Well, that doesn't make sense. How can I have 220%? Well, let me layer on top of that now the 4 or 6% up through around 15, 16% is probably yet another 80%. So let's say we're up to 300% of our total member contribution. The members in the percentiles 16 through 89 will lose us 80 to 100%. And then the bottom 10% members, we know them. They're in asset recovery department. We have bankruptcy notices from their attorneys. We're paying lawyer bills related to those members. So we normally know the bottom 10%. Their loans are on non-accrual. They're going through charge-off. And so that 10% hit us hard. And the net of all these segments are the bottom, are the net 100% of member contribution. Now, I would also wager that if y'all have done segmentation on your use of services and debit card interchange income, if you isolate all of your debit card holders and segment those that use their card, let's say at least one transaction per month, to consider them, let's say, an active debit card user, I will wager that 15% of those that are active, not even those that have a card, but those that use at least one transaction per month, will produce 85% of your interchange income. It's those users that are using their card 50, 60, and more times per month that produce the majority of your interchange income, and that means you've got 85% of active users that only produce about 15%. So an extreme minority produces an extreme majority, and depending on how your NSF program is running, it may be similar, as well as other account fees. My point is, it's very important to be able to isolate and see those segments. As an illustration, here's a screen. Now, this was a relatively small credit union, but they also had business banking. So let me point out that they had business banking, and business banking even makes their segmentations more extreme. So looking at these individual percentiles 1 through 10, so their top 10 percentiles sum to about $3 million. And their total of contribution is $1.6 million, okay? So the top 10% are 200% of their net contribution. And in fact, you can see the top 3 percentile is that 100% of their contribution. You can see that they go negative in total member contribution around this percentile rank, and you can see that the bottom 10% costs them a lot of money. What I also wanted to point out to you, though, that's fascinating is the concentration of services per household. So you can see a high number of services in their best members, which is something that we'd like to see, right? We hope that our best members have really engaged with us and are using our products and services, right? But you also see it's a U-shaped curve, and engagement also ramps up towards these bottom percentiles, back up to a 2.5. So, you know, intuitive actions are easily revealed here. You know, we want to increase engagement within these ranges when they're below 2, and maybe even when they're below 2.4. But we've been successful at selling to people that are in our worst percentile ranges as well. Now, a lot of these people, your branch managers know. They come into the branch often. They beat us up a little bit over fees. They want the higher rates on the CDs. And so we end up giving them higher rates and waiving their fees whenever they occur, right? So we know those members. And all of that results in a negative member contribution. So it's about what is the right actions to take within these segments. Again, segmentation is everything. Looking again at why segmentation is everything, I'll submit to you this analysis. So a member with a checking account and a debit card, okay? And we're making, in a month, $108 and $84 on average. So this is a certain segment of their households, just 667 of their top performing households, but yet looking towards the bottom, we have that exact same mix of products, consumer checking, debit card, and yet they even have a savings account. But when they have a very low balance and a high number of transactions, yet don't produce any fees, that checking account is going to result in a negative balance. Yet if they have a very high balance and maybe they do produce fees or they're producing interchange income, overall we're making money on that relationship. So it's difficult to see. It's a challenge for credit unions because the top 5 percentile have a consumer checking account. They're good transaction members. They use a debit card. They have internet banking. But then if we look down into that 80th percentile or that 70th percentile range, they also have a checking account. They even have a savings account, and they have a debit card. Yet they're doing a lot of PIN transactions and creating transactional fees, and they don't really hit the credit button. They're not using it from a credit card perspective. They're just generating PIN and POS transactions instead of generating the interchange income. So how can we isolate and see those two different segments? Again, segmentation is everything. So let's get more practical, right? One of the ways that we can really increase deposits, today interest rates are starting to tick up. We're all excited about the new loan renewals, and the new loan origination are at rates higher than probably the weighted average rate of the portfolio of those similar loans because rates are trending up. So our interest income should be ramping up. On the deposit side, then we need more deposits to help fund those loans. And there's some credit unions that I've engaged with that are about 100% loan to share ratio, okay? And so they desperately are in need of increasing deposits. So this is something that I've been working with a number of clients on. And what's important is we've seen the challenges in the last 2 slides of segmentation. And some credit unions and some of you on the phone may have a next product model. You may know the right product for the right member at the right time for your credit union. And when I find credit unions that have a next product model, it's a big step to get to that point when I will submit to you that next product model that is an average for your entire credit union probably is varying degrees of wrong for each individual segment. And what I mean by that is that a next product model for your executives is quite different than the next product model for your millennials. Or consider the millennials versus the retirees. The retirees, we have a lot of deposits. They don't really need loans. They don't have much of a loan appetite. So what's the messaging to increase our credit balances with retirees? We'll talk about that in a moment. Versus the millennials, they've got school debt, right? They're buying cars. They have low deposit balances, but they are the indirect auto members that come through our relationship with the car dealers. And how do we onboard them to get more of their transactional business and even grow in our credit relationships with them? So looking at these two diametrically opposed or either end of a paradigm, if we have a single next product model that's right in the middle of these two, it's not right for the retirees and it's not right for the millennials. I'm sure everyone agrees with that. So the point is, how do we segment these groups of members so that we can increase their use in their mix of products and services? Also, the point to this conversation is that we want actionable steps. within each of these segments, and then we want to measure the results of those actions. So if I meet with, let's say we want to increase deposits, and this is not one of the three, but let's just say we're looking at the sum of deposits, and we're looking at the sum of monthly deposits and whether they have an ACH credit, right? These are real simple queries you can run against your database. You know, if we don't have their income, we can take the sum of their deposits in a month, maybe average it over a running 3-month period, and it's probably a good proxy to income. If that number's low, then we may not have all of their balances, right? If we look at an engagement algorithm, we may see a lot of members where we gave a discount for that mortgage rate or that indirect auto rate to open a checking account and engage with the credit union. But yet, if we were to look at their number of transactions within that account, we may see that they're just making a deposit 2 or 3 days before the payment for that mortgage or that car loan comes out, right? So they haven't engaged. They did the bare minimum of opening the account to get the lower rate. They're making their payments on the mortgage or on the auto loan from a checking account at the credit union, but they're doing the bare minimum to qualify for that preferred rate and to do as we've asked, and they have a checking account, but they haven't really engaged. So obviously, if we can isolate that segment out and try to get more of their business, to try to get their ACH deposit, right, we can increase deposits. If we sum the deposits and we call it a proxy to income, and then if we have segment information and we know which seg they work for, then we may say, hey, look, this sum of deposits, obviously we don't have, you know, all of their deposit business, or we're not getting their ACH recurring deposit. You can look at those payroll deposits that are hitting on those recurring periods, and then by seg, you can see who doesn't have that deposit, right? So I know that they haven't moved their payroll over, and we can end up creating very small segmented actions within very specific groups. My point is then, if we identify some of those segments from those data analytics, I love the meeting where I'll have the head of retail, 2 or 3 branch managers that are your more, you know, proactive, maybe longer term or just marketing oriented managers, right? And so maybe we have 4 people in the meeting. We walk out with 7 or 8 ideas on what to do to these same segments because, you know, one group says, well, I'd like to send an email, I'd like to send a text, I'd like to send a nice glossy brochure, I'm going to have a message pop on the teller system when the member walks in, I'm going to make an outbound call, and then even when we agree on the channel, what is the message? Okay, am I going to offer a preferred rate or a discount on something if you move over your ACH deposit, if you move over more of your deposit business, we're going to do this. Maybe I'm going to put you in the special rewards program on the debit card if we do that. So that's what I mean by there's message, there's an approach, there's a channel, and we have to stamp the actions that we're taking on those different segments so that then we can measure the success, because the goal is to create recurring best practices within that segment that ultimately become prescriptive statistics to where we are going to have triggers. So let's say that the average deposit amount is much larger than normal. Okay, the member probably got a bonus check. You know, they got a higher than normal deposit. So we want to reach out to them and try to talk them into a higher rate CD or get them in touch with brokerage. But what's the message that we deliver to that segment? We want to find the right message for the right member at the right time. And then ideally, we can use what's called learning organization, where we recognize the best human component or the best branch that's good at onboarding, and then we kind of case study what they're doing. Maybe we even do a webinar with that top performer so that others can ask them, hey, what do you say when they object this way or that way, right? Okay, so that's all about the segmentation and measuring that. So another way to increase deposits, of course, is to keep more of what we have. I did not mean to do that. Is to keep more of what we already have. So how do we slow attrition? Again, an engagement metric is key. There's a lot of components to an engagement metric, but I will tell you it's not rocket science. It actually can be pretty easy to measure how well a member is engaged with me. It gives you a tremendous amount of power because now I can see members at my 2 days, 2 weeks, or 2 month point compared to each other. I can compare all the members of one branch, the average engagement metric, with another branch. Maybe you even have the statistics at the individual officer level on who opened the accounts, how, is one or two people, team members, just consistently killing it in terms of the onboarding success. Okay, let's have them share their story, maybe be peer mentors to others, maybe do a write-up, maybe we do a video of them doing a mock opening exercise for all new team members to see, okay? But also, if I look within my best member contribution segments, then I look at the engagement algorithm, I can then see where if I increase engagement, I can extend that average life by getting them to use more retentive or sticky products and services. So a lot of times, rather than the cost of going out and getting new members or getting more deposits from existing members, we can simply slow that rate of attrition and look at what we're losing, why we're losing them, did they get into the right products and services to begin with, or how can we increase that extended, that average life of that member, which I'll tell you also, if you slow the attrition, remember our member contribution concentrations. If we can slow the attrition in some of those 1 through 5 or 6 or even 10% members, and we extend that average life, that is going to be substantial to the bottom line of the credit union. Thirdly, let's talk about a CD-secured line of credit. Now, I know we're talking about increasing deposits. So why would we be talking about a credit product? And this is one of these, just a small step outside the box. We're talking about increasing deposits, and I'm going to mention to you if you considered offering a CD-secured line of credit. Again, segmentation is key. It shouldn't be one offer to everyone. Let's say that we are able to pull the FICO score of our members, and we know that FICO score, and we segment that into a higher range or lower range. Maybe we use the underwriting guidelines for our auto loans, okay, or personal line of credit. And when I was managing director of analysis services at Sheshnoff, we specifically did a VAI study using a lot of large bank data on changes in FICO score. And so that's where I'm coming at you from this information. And it's a tremendous member service and even CRA credit on the education side for this type of program. So what I'm talking about very tangibly is, let's say we take all of our members with a FICO score below that underwriting minimum of that FICO. Maybe it's below a 660, let's just say as an example. So everyone with below a 660, or maybe we've even gone lower and we're looking at people below a 600, we are going to say, we'd like you to open a CD. Maybe it's only a $2,000 CD. But to that $2,000 CD, I bet you could get a very quick underwriting process to make a 90% line of credit loan for that CD. So let's say if they open a $2,000 CD, we set them up with a no-brainer $1,800 line of credit. It's collateralized by the CD. It's cash collateralized, so it should go through underwriting very quickly. Okay? Now, if they keep their balance of that cash collateralized line of credit below 50%, that's going to be their first of 4 boosts to their FICO score. And if they keep only a 10% outstanding balance, so let's say they withdraw $180, they've got 90% of that credit line available. An important component to this story is that you do credit reporting on your lines of credit like you do for your car loans. And if you do, that will be doing your members a service, because now they'll have a new credit, an availability of credit from their checking account with the credit union. They are going to make recurring on-time payments. So they're going to start getting recurring on-time payments. That's a 3rd boost to their credit score. And then after a year, that is going to bring a 4th boost for having what's called a long-term credit relationship, and long-term actually triggers in that 13th month. So from this analysis on actually several 100,000 consumer accounts related to this product, we found that within a year, we would boost the typical FICO range between 60 and 80 points. The minimum range was around 40 points if we isolated people that had other negative consequences that lowered their FICO score. So if we were able to pull their credit before and after, just do a soft pull so it doesn't harm their credit score, then we would find that by having those 3 benefits of having an available credit, a low percentage of credit available, and recurring payments, they would get the 1st-year boost in FICO. And then in the 13th month, they'd get a 4th boost in FICO. So what a great member service if we could market with the appropriate CFPB-related asterisks and legalese that other factors may also be affecting their FICO, and they need to be making on-time payments and, you know, being a good credit user. But if all things being equal and they have this product, they should increase their FICO score 40, 60, 80 points within a year, which could then make them a member that could qualify for that credit card loan, that could qualify for that auto loan, maybe even qualify for the mortgage. So what a great message to send to your members with a lower FICO score. What a great member service, and you'll end up generating more CD deposits related to it. Now, in terms of your CD deposit members with a good credit score and those retirees that don't need credit, they don't need loans, right? I'm retired, I have large CDs. They actually still respond very well to a CD secured line of credit with a completely different message. The message to the retirees is, look, you've got these CDs with us, we know. You don't need a line of credit, we understand. But your CDs are maturing at different times during the year. And for $35, wouldn't you like the peace of mind that I'm going to make 90% of your CDs available to you in a line of credit? This is going to give you the added liquidity if you have something occur outside of your normal CD renewal windows, okay? And you just, or perhaps you're actually carrying a balance on some other loan, or Johnny, you're going to help him with a wedding present, or you're going to help give him some money getting into a new mortgage. And so you can do all of that by using your CD secured line of credit and enjoy the benefits of having that liquidity. Now, I'll tell you, for a large credit union, a little bit more than $6 billion, we made that pitch to their jumbo CD holders, and then we lowered it down to the people that had more than $50,000 in their CDs, and we had $22 million new credit balances in our CD secured lines of credit in 1 year. I think it was actually around 8 months, okay? Because those members that don't need loans will take the $35 non-interest income producing line of credit just to sleep better at night, to know they've got that added liquidity source. And just for $35, I mean, why not? I can tap that line of credit, and then it turns out, I could use it for this. Oh, well, shoot, maybe it's a 1.5% interest rate over whatever my CD balance is, and that's a lot lower than what I could get, for this loan or what I'm paying on this balance over here. And so they actually will surprise you and move, they'll use that line of credit, and they'll open those credit balances that remain pretty static, and they'll make payments to them. Now, what happens is when that CD comes up for renewal, they renew to a lot higher percentage. You move them from the rate shopper segment into a longer term CD member segment, and they're not as aggressive in asking for rate price increases. Why? Because they know that this CD, for convenience, is linked to their line of credit, okay? Also, you're going to extend that average life with them. And yet another benefit is some of these may have been CD-only customers, but you know what? When they open that CD secured line of credit, you're going to open up a checking account for them to make automatic monthly payments from their CD line of credit. And so now you're going to extend that member relationship to have a checking account. Hopefully they'll start using it. If not, we'll see that revealed through our engagement metric, and we'll start going after them to engage with us more anyway. But imagine those two very different pitches, because we were able to segment our members, and then we tried different messages, different approaches. When they walked into the branch, we sent them a nice flyer. Maybe we did some email marketing, but we want to segment aside those actions so that then we can analytically evaluate them and find the quantitative result of those actions against the cost of the action, so we know the ROI of that particular marketing initiative, okay? And there's people that will help you do that, those analytics to identify your best service. There's also products that will help you do that. But if you don't have the products, you can just use a service to do that, or we can talk about how to set that up using your existing staff or your existing BI or even that SQL guy in IT. These things, again, are not rocket science. It's just incremental learning, and the best time to get started is now, just to get started. So if we sum up, again, to get started and start increasing deposits, start simple, have a simple goal, focus on delivering an immediate ROI. To deliver the immediate ROI, the key is, first, leverage the tremendous number of opportunities that reside within the credit union data. Just very quickly on this call, in addition to those three things that we talked about, we also talked about an engagement metric, using their monthly deposits as a proxy for income, and what information does that reveal about your members? It may reveal that they're not engaged with you much, because you know they're making more than that, and so obviously they haven't moved over their payroll deposits. We've talked about mining the ACH transactions and the tremendous wealth of information that comes from that data. And then we talked about segmentation and keeping more of what you have, lowering attrition, increasing the retention metric on those members, particularly when you overlap the retention metric in the member contribution results, and particularly when you are looking at an engagement metric. So within my good segments of member contribution, when engagement is low, I want to focus on getting them to use my more retentive products and services. Maybe it's using internet banking more, getting on mobile, or using bill pay, or using that debit card with credit transactions instead of PIN, and even setting up the debit card with some recurring transactions, which come in as a different tran code than a normal debit card transaction. So you should be able to isolate your recurring transactions versus your non-recurring, and those that are using the recurring transactions, you'll have a higher retention in that group. And then again, segmentation is the solution. So with that, let's open it up to some questions. We can take the attendees off mute.
Hi, Stephen. Greg Nolder from Denali Federal Credit Union. I'm just curious. I very much like the idea of starting quick and small wins of all the different options you talked about for increasing deposits. Which is the easiest or fastest or best place to start?
I would line it up, and good to hear from you, Greg. Hope things are well at Denali. So there are several ways to start that's low-hanging fruit, but the analytics group or the BI group, even with some of those great low-hanging fruit, maybe some of those opportunities we identify would get the attention of those that can take action. But typically, the place I like to start is asking each client, what's your strategic goal? What's your strategic initiative? Okay, it's increasing, credit cards. Then, okay, increasing credit card balances. We want to go on a campaign of having people move over other balances to us, or using it more, or is it net new number of credit card holders? Okay, so then we want to mine the mortgage data or that indirect auto credit score data, find those that have credit cards in other places and try to get them to move over to us, right? We want to mine that ACH data for them making credit card payments to other banks and try to get them to open credit cards with us. So 2 examples of opportunities that lie within the data, but in starting simple, I think we'll find the most traction if we're empowering the line of business to succeed. So that's where I'd start, but then also there's a lot of ways to say, wow, look at this tremendous amount of data over here. We could take these actions. It may not be in the current strategic plan, or it may not be a measured goal at the moment, but maybe we could make it one because it's such an opportunity. So those are the 2 ways that I would simply start.
That's great. Thank you.
You bet.
Question on your ACH?
Yes, sir.
In the ACH, not necessarily the methodology, but when you're mining data for ACH, there's other ways that we can look at ACH as opposed to just coming in, going out. But where would be a good focus to start with the ACH as far as what we're trying to get to as an end goal with the ACH? Is it the deposit? Is it going to other institutions? Or where is I guess the best way to put it is, what is the goal of mining the ACH? It seems intuitive, but what are some of the goals of mining the ACH?
Yep, great question. Boy, if I wrote that one up myself, I couldn't have asked a better question, because the answer is it depends on your segmentation. And what I mean by that is the action's going to be different in your 1 through 15% per contribution versus in your lower percentiles. So it's going to be different when you segment on what products and services do they use with me. So let me give you 2 or 3 real tangible examples. Let's say I've got a good member with a good member contribution, good deposit balances, good interchange income, but they haven't really engaged with me much on the credit side. I'd want to mine their ACH data, and I'd want to look for payments to Wells Fargo, BofA, Citibank, Chase. I'd want to stamp a database to the side of those transactions for 2 or 3 months for the purposes of seeing, is it the same dollar amount every month, or is it a different dollar amount, okay? If it's a different dollar amount, obviously it's credit card, it's line of credit, or maybe it's an adjustable rate mortgage. If it's the same dollar amount, it's probably car loan, it's probably mortgage. So now I can have more intelligent approach to them on what specifically I'm going after. And if it's a higher member contribution, you know, I may want to make a personal call to them because I want to make sure we're delivering our best member service. And so that's kind of the extreme segment where I want to know, I want to have my top 1 through 6 percentiles of member contribution. I want to have some ACH equations or terms within those segments. See, I want to know within those segments, are they in my top 1 through 6% because they get there through loans, or they get through there through deposit balances, or they get there through fees and interchange income. And then within each of those 3 segments of that segment, I want to know, tell me about their internet banking usage, their recurring debit card transactions, and their ACH transactions. You're right, it is intuitive if I look at it within those segments, but then I want to measure the actions and find what action resonates best to that segment. Think about getting down to a segment of 1 as we keep getting a segment within a segment within a segment, and then take a very prescriptive action. See, now, rather than looking at back in the data, we can have a trigger. And when that member looks like this type of member at 2 months with these type of transactions, I'm looking for that combination, that equation, and boom, advanced analytics gives me a to-do right then, right now, like today. Versus within a different member segment, am I seeing recurring withdrawals on ACH to E-Trade, to Merrill Lynch, to you know, a different bank for savings? Then I can go in and you know, pitch, you know, get them in touch with our brokerage person, pitch them a higher rate CD, and go after deposits that way, right? When I know that they work for a particular seg, let's say Frito-Lay, but I'm not seeing their recurring ACH deposit, again, it's intuitive, it's a pretty refined segment. I know they work at that seg, but I don't see their ACH deposit, so I know it's going somewhere else. I want to go after them with moving over that business. So I would tell you, when you isolate the ACH transactions within segments, you'll have a lot of intuitive actions, but I would beg of you to be stamping that stuff and doing more quantitative analysis, regressing some actions and approaches and messages within the characteristics of the segment to find triggers that we could then take prescriptive action in the future.
So just to follow up, we do know if they've got other auto loans, any other kind of trade. We have that information, and we trend that information for 6-month, semi-annual, and annual year-over-year changes, so we can see if we're missing new business that they're putting on. So with the ACH, would you tie this into? So you're saying you would tie the ACH payments into that type of transaction?
I would, but here's another one for you. If they came in through the indirect auto or the mortgage, are you getting the credit report data electronically? Because maybe they have car loans and credit cards that you're not seeing those ACH transactions from your checking account, meaning that they've got another checking account that they're making those payments from, right? So you have even less of their business than you think, because we should be seeing these ACH transactions, and I'm not, right? So even by not seeing the ACH, when I know another Boolean flag is true, they've got these other relationships, where are those payments coming from?
Yeah, I should have said, this is David Gumperhurst from Westcom Credit Union. So we've done this since about 2009, and so we have we've monitored through the monitoring process, we have all their trades every quarter. So we do have that. So that's what we look at, is the focus on where our business isn't. So it's sort of where you're going with that, but I think the financial institution of choice shows that they've got 5 car loans and it's not coming from their checking account. We're not their financial institution of choice. It's an easy deduction there, and that can help us with engagement.
Right. So engagement, Yep, an engagement metric too applied on those accounts may also tell you, how they're using you, if they've fully engaged and if they've engaged with you compared to other members, or maybe they're, they're looking like they could exhibit the characteristics of one of your ideal members at the 2-year plus measure, but yet you recognize them at 4 months or 6 months because you've overlaid an engagement metric, which is easy to do. But so you understand more probably than most credit unions, and I bet you have different buckets of that ACH analysis, to where they fall into this bucket of analysis or this bucket of analysis, where now we take different actions because of what you're seeing in those ACH transactions.
Right. Yeah, we have a hub spoke. We have a hub and spoke where we use let's see, the ACH, the trades, and then the online payments, the auto payments, the slips my mind, but the payment system, so they can go on and set up automatic payments. So we web those 3 together, and it brings us deductive reasoning. AI basically delivers to us whether we're an institution of choice, we have a greater market share of the wallet, et cetera.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Any other questions? Don't be shy. So I guess here's one other tidbit for those that have stuck around for the final 5 minutes. Here's another idea for you. In this engagement metric, in this engagement statistic, it's a very simple algorithm to create and measure their engagement with the institution. Of course, what you want to be doing is overlaying that metric with, and you could calculate it daily and know what is their daily engagement, at different times of the month, right? To see if they're running ahead of normal or less than normal. So let's say the engagement metric is adding up their number of transactions and their number of logins to internet banking, their number of bill pays, their number of debit card transactions. Certainly it gets some bonus points for the ACH deposit that comes in. And so let's say around the 15th, within a really good member contribution segment, you see a member with a dramatically lower engagement statistic than normal, right? It looks like they're disengaging from the credit union. And so you want to obviously take action on them immediately, right? They could have had a bad experience. And, today people don't close an account in a day. It takes 60 days. So we'll see a decline in their debit card transactions as they start moving those payments elsewhere. Maybe they've already opened an account, moved their ACH. But we could reach out to them and maybe save that relationship. You save a couple of those 1 through 10 percentile members, and that is a big ROI. And so you just have to be able to see it before it's too late. And again, an engagement metric overlapped with a member contribution will reveal a lot of information for each of your lines of business and for each person that's focused on your different products. They'll be interested in seeing those relationships a different way. And so that can certainly also help you increase deposits. Any other final questions, or I'll turn it over to First Tech for any closing.
Hi, Stephen. This is Josh Josephson. I'm calling from Public Service Credit Union.
How are you doing, Josh?
Good. How are you doing today? I wanted to follow up about the, I guess you were specifically mentioning the products and services to extend your membership period. How would you dissect that data So, obviously the longer term members probably tend to have similar products, but that might not, but then, things have probably changed over the last 20 to 30 years. How would you break that down to give you accurate data for what will be those types of products that would extend membership moving forward?
Great question. Again, man, y'all have asked some 5-star questions. So the way that we do that here at Data Science Consulting is we use logistic regression, and we look at segments of members, let's say, that are in the 2 to 6 month period versus the 6 to 1 year, or 1 year to 18 months, et cetera, up to about 2 years or 3 years. It kind of depends on the data. And then what we do is, ideally, the best model is going to have values for their different products, and then all of the services tied on to that. And not only if they have internet banking, but how many times do they log in daily? I mean, do they log in 22 times per month? How many bill pays they have? How many debit cards, not if they have a debit card, but how many debit card transactions do they have, credit transactions versus PIN versus recurring. So if we have all of that data, then what we can do is we've tried running random forest, but what works best is just an iterative chi-squared and logistic regression. And so it gets a little bit into advanced analytics, but when you regress that data within those different segments, then the correlation coefficient result, the p-value, will tell you how contributing that relationship is. And then as you're segmenting that data and you stamp it, then over time you'll see, hey, the people with this product outlasted these products. People with this product outlasted these products. You really hit the nail on the head, Josh. We've done a lot of credit unions that have done a great job of, let's say, onboarding their best members that we see all the time, and they come into the credit union, and we've incented getting that debit card, getting that bill pay, and they've added it because we keep asking them, but they don't really use it. So we see in our 3-year-plus members that, shoot, they've got just about everything. Well, but everything isn't really that retentive. And so what's the most retentive things, and how do we derive that next product model within each member contribution range, within the retirees versus the millennials? And the way we do that is we create those segments by their transaction mixes and their use of products, not based on their age, and we then derive those equations statistically. And then as you keep that model learning and learning, you get into machine learning, and you get self-correcting equations, and that's your best next product model within each segment of members and within the segments of which products they're using. So we rely on regression is the answer.
Thank you.
You bet. And give me a call. I'd be happy to walk you through that in more specifics if you like. I've even got a little flow chart, the advanced analytics methodology. Otherwise, I think we're at the top of the hour, folks. And so I've had a great time. Honored to have been asked to do this by CU Lytics and First Tech, so thank you for that. I appreciate everyone's time attending. My contact information there is at culytics.com, and feel free to give me a call or send me an email with any other questions you may have, and you may find some additional resources at our website too. And appreciate everyone's time.